Welcome to Backyard Oasis, a podcast designed by and for older adults living in the beautiful Pioneer Valley of Western Massachusetts and produced in the tech studios at Greenfield Community College in Greenfield, Massachusetts. Backyard Oasis reaches out to older adults who seek knowledge to help them live more thoughtfully, healthily, and happily, who hope to inspire others with their ideas, and who serve their communities in the interest of the greater good. We hope you join us frequently in our pleasant Backyard Oasis for wide-ranging conversations with a diversity of people who are growing older and want to talk about it.
Hi, I'm Denise Schwartz, your host. It's winter, and I've been thinking about games. I remember always, and I mean always, asking Santa to bring me games for Christmas. Board games. I'd browse the catalogs, yes, those printed catalogs that came in the mail, and I'd circle the games that I thought would be a lot of fun to play. Then I'd show Mom or Dad my list, and I'd ask if they thought it was okay to send to Santa. And you know, Santa always brought me the games I'd asked for. I was wondering what the first board game Santa brought me was, and Candyland came to mind. I asked my husband the same question, and he said, Candyland. Now, I was surprised in part to hear him say this because he is a man for whom the words games you played when you were a kid mean one thing, hockey. Which brings to mind outdoor games, physical games. Yeah, sports, sure, but also jump rope, hopscotch, tag, hide and seek, and the dreaded Red Rover, will Denise please come over? I always prayed that I would not be the last kid to be asked over for that game. Speaking of asking over, people have been asking other people to come on over and play some games for as long as humans have been human, we think. It's thought that the royal game of is the oldest playable board game in the world, originating around 4,000 years ago in Mesopotamia. And some historians believe that Mancala is the oldest game in the world, based on archaeological evidence they found in Jordan that dates around 6,000 years ago. So why is it that humans play games? Studies show that playing together builds confidence, camaraderie, cranial connections, and yes, culture. These are all good things for humans of all ages, including and especially older adults. But let me mention that I think my husband had a really good answer when I asked him why he thinks people play games. And he said, because it's fun. So today we're going to have some fun and learn more about games and why we play them. My guest is Jill Schumann, who some say is the maven of Mah Jongg in her town of Reading, Massachusetts, and who loves playing games more than almost anyone I know. But first, a little bit about Jill. She has more than 30 years of experience as a medical science writer, editor, special library director, and information professional with publishers and biotech companies of all sizes. Since her retirement, she's become a Mah Jongg instructor, and she's responsible for introducing many locals to the games she loves so much. Let me add that Jill has been a friend for more than 40 years, during which time we have played together in actual stage plays. And we've played games a lot, including, Say It Like a Caveman, which I personally believe is slightly insulting to cave dwellers. Anyway, we're going to talk about games, the games people play, and why we do it. Hello, Jill.
Hey, Denise.
Well, before I turn this over to you pretty much, I just wanted to say something like, I remember that all my friends played games when I was a kid, and my parents and their friends played games. My relatives played games. People played poker on Saturday nights and bridge on Wednesdays and badminton in the summer, all kinds of games. That was kind of my childhood. Was that like yours?
Very much so, Denise. We didn't have a lot of money to go out and go to the movies and do, things outside of the house. So we did play games, card games especially. My mom and I loved, should be no surprise given my line of work, word games. And I grew up for a short time in a multi-generational house. And in that house, Tuesday was Mah Jongg Day. My grandma played in the afternoon. My mother played at night. And when I was around, I would help them set up the games. And at night, when I was in bed, I would listen to the sound of the Mah Jongg tiles on the dining room table. And it's a very tactile experience. I would love to play with the tiles and move them around. And so we come from a big game playing family.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like people are doing that quite as much. But then again, I don't have little kids around. And just before we started talking today, there were some folks here in the studio, and I mentioned this topic. And, everyone started talking about the games that they played. And apparently there are games that kids are still playing, but not quite as much. They're moving into digital games. And unfortunately, we're not going to talk about that today, okay?
And many of the games that kids play or played are now available digitally. And like you say, the experience is just not the same at all. So, but the board games do still exist. One of the oldest board games out there is Candyland.
I
And
can't believe it that
yep,
game is still relevant. That's what I played. Remember? That's what I said. First thing
absolutely.
that came to mind.
My
Did you play
grandchildren are still
Candyland?
playing it on a board.
I think it's because the board is so beautiful.
Yeah, could be.
I mean, who can resist all that sugar, right? Well, the last time we were together, the four of us played a game that was similar to charades. And we've played charades together a lot. But do you remember that last time? It wasn't too long ago.
I do.
Yeah. And then, you talked at that time about your love of game playing. And you specifically talked about Mah Jongg. And we're going to talk a lot about Mah Jongg later. I hope you're ready to tell people what all of those tiles mean because, man, it looks really confusing to me. But anyway, and then you suggested that we record an episode about games and game playing and the benefits of playing games for people of all ages, specifically older adults. And I just wanted to ask you, why is this topic so important to you?
Well, you and I have talked about this in the past. Isolation is becoming a huge issue always, but particularly since the pandemic. And what we saw during the pandemic was that many people, but especially older people, who were used to going out and playing bridge one day a week or playing mahjong or canasta, were suddenly not able to do that anymore. And if you look at, healthcare information, you see that cognitive levels in seniors started to fall when the isolation increased. So
Really?
the fact that they were no longer able to get out and be social and to, use their brains to plan their hands or play their next move or just being with people, the creativity and the problem solving really led to some pretty intensive neuropsychological work on the benefits of not only game playing as a way to keep your mind busy, but also socialization. So
Yeah, that's right, the socialization part. And I remember during the pandemic, John and I would stay home, and we started playing games almost every night after dinner, and then sometimes in the afternoon if we did finished our walks or whatever. So it's good to know that we were able to start playing those kinds of games, but maybe not with as many people during the pandemic. We want to talk a lot about the social connection and also how games build culture. Let's talk about that too. But I just wanted to say, according to a recent AARP survey, of 1,002 adults, age 50 plus, 65% reported playing games with friends. And this activity spans, I'm just reading what they said, various formats from traditional card games to online games. And it highlights its widespread appeal and its numerous benefits. It reveals that playing games not only provides entertainment, but also supports mental health, reduces stress, and keeps minds active, which is what you have just mentioned. So let's think a little bit about why we started playing games. I like to think about that game. You can talk about games. Since we started talking about doing this episode, I thought a lot about games. And that, no offense to whoever created it, that kind of silly game that you gave us for Christmas, Talk Like a Caveman. I'm not kidding you. I thought about that so much. And I thought about those nice cave dwellers. And there's records that games have been played forever, but I'm thinking about the cave dwellers and what did some nice cave dweller do on an evening when he walked out of the cave and walked over to the side of the lake and found a stone and picked it up and looked at it and threw it in the water and then maybe another nice cave dweller came by and looked and found a stone and threw it in the water. And then the first one said, I can throw mine further than that, and picked up another stone and threw it. And maybe that's how a game started way back for our cave dweller ancestors. I love thinking about that. Have you thought about that?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you assume that competition is an innate characteristic of most human beings, I'm pretty sure that's how that started. Who can build the biggest whatever? Who can throw the furthest? Who can catch the most fish? Who can prevail? And I think that's innate in humans, and I think that game playing brings that out. Sometimes not always to the best in people, but I think it taps into that.
Yeah, the thing about games is that they are competitive, but not always. We were talking before we started this recording with the folks who just happened to walk into the studio that game playing, especially for children, is really an important educational tool. And I just wanted to say something about that I found pretty fascinating. It said, there is a neuroscientist named Kelly Clancy, and she said that many games, like chess, were a universal language and a way to pass down societal values to children. And I have a quote of hers. I'm going to read some of it, if that's okay with you, Jill. She said, some games are explicitly designed to transmit a particular message. Some games are not really so much fun to play when you're an adult, a game like Snakes and Ladders. But that's part of what the message was intended to be with that game. It was originally invented by an Indian holy man to teach the virtues of karma. If you do good things, you go up to heaven. If you do bad things, you slide down the snake. So it was something that was meant to teach kids these ideas. And I think we see that in a lot of games. And let me just to follow that up, I read that Plato thought that games were really important educational tools for young kids to learn how to follow rules. So that, now listen to this, so that as adults, said Plato, they would know how to follow laws and make democracy work.
That is probably true. And some of the very earliest games I read, I think from the Museum of Games, they had an essay on culture and games and mythology. And basically, the earliest board games were biblical in nature. If you accomplished something, you went down one side of the board to heaven, and if you didn't accomplish whatever moray you were supposed to be accomplishing, you went down the other side into who knows where. But
hell.
Yes.
Oh,
but
wow, I love it.
Yes, I do think that culture is very much handed down. I mean, you look at games like certainly Mah Jongg, which has a strong cultural overlay to it. Even certain card games. When I was growing up, every Jewish grandfather I knew played pinochle. I didn't know anybody else that played pinochle. So there definitely are cultural things to be handed down, and I think that's one of the best parts of game playing.
How was pinochle building culture?
Because the old men would sit around and they'd talk about the old days, and then they'd pass the stories down. And I remember having to fight with my grandpa to let me learn how to play the game because no, it was only for boys and men.
No.
Girls didn't play. Yeah.
No,
I remember
kidding.
that. Yep.
Even in a card game.
Yep. Because,
Wow.
they would smoke their cigars and, I don't know what else they were doing there on at the table, but it was definitely, probably the precursor to the modern day men's club.
Oh, yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah.
That's really funny. We talk about the folks way back when playing games. I remember we would go down to my father's family on Christmas Day after visiting my mother's mother and family. And we would walk in the little house, through the little kitchen, into the dining room that was practically filled by the dining room table. And all of the aunties would be around that dining room table, and they would all be playing cards and smoking cigarettes. And we would walk, and I'd be a little kid, and we'd all say, Merry Christmas. And then I'll say, hi, Merry Christmas. You want us to deal you in? It was like, yeah, it's Christmas, but we got to finish this card game. It was really important. And it was every Christmas. So that was really part of the tradition. I found this other thing that I thought was really cool, and I know you, Jill, you're going to love this. This same neuroscientist, Kelly Clancy, said that games predate human language, and the act of playing together is something that happened across the board. Her quote was, "It seems like a pretty universal thing. One of the great things about looking at board games in the ancient world is that people just made anything into a game board. I see people playing tic-tac-toe on the walls," or games like tic-tac-toe, I'm sure she meant. "In some Egyptian ruins, there are game boards scratched into the roofs of old temples." She said, "It's thought that there were priests sitting on the roof of temples waiting for a particular astronomical event and just passing the time playing games together," which is, I think, a pretty beautiful picture to have.
When we were in Arizona a few years ago, we went to some Native American ruins. And one of the things that we saw was that in several of the old outlines of the old homes, and these were way back when, we saw grids that looked like tic-tac-toe.
Really?
Yep.
Isn't that interesting? Because that's what she said.
Yep.
About seeing them on temple walls.
Yep.
Isn't that what she said? Scratched into the roofs of old temples.
Yep. We saw them in one spot on the floor and in another spot literally on a wall. Yep.
I love it. It goes back so far. So
I was
when
the
you
only
and I
one
get
that
together,
noticed it, but
oh, are you serious? I'm sure somebody else noticed it, Jill, out of the millions of people who are there. Well, you brought up game playing that's very, very old. Why don't we segue into Mah Jongg, which has become, may I say, an obsession for you?
pretty much.
Tell us about Mah Jongg, and why did you want to have listeners learn about games, suggest that they play more games, and specifically talk about Mah Jongg?
Okay. A couple of reasons. I am somebody who has spent the last 20 years of my life on a computer.
Right.
And it can become all-encompassing and very isolating. When you play games with other people in a place away from the computer, it does all sorts of things. It allows you to communicate and just make social connections. And if you make those social connections long enough, as you and I certainly both know, they can become more important social connections. They're not just the people you play a certain game with on Tuesday nights. They're now part of a larger extended family.
Right.
And the best part about that is when you do start playing games, you're introduced to people you might never have come in contact with in any other place. So it's the added benefit of meeting people in an extended way that brings you all together because you enjoy doing one thing. Games are great for creativity and problem solving.
How so?
You
Give an
know, if you're
example.
playing a pattern-based game, for example, like Rummy Cube or Mah Jongg,
Oh, yeah.
you have to look at the whole board quickly and say, okay, if I move that yellow tile to that rack up to that meld over there, that means I can do this. So it's very forward thinking, and that way it's like chess. You're trying to stay ahead of yourself. It's hard to do. Again, the social connections. And I actually think that games help build emotional resilience. I think
Oh, tell
that
me.
it actually, and it's borne out by some of the science, that gameplay helps people cope with anxiety and depression and gives you more positive coping mechanisms like acceptance and even reframing, like, all right, I'm not going to win this game.
Right.
You know what? I played really well this time. I tried something different. So all in all, a good thing.
You know, Jill, I keep going on that, but I wanted to say something. Before we started this session, I mentioned that some folks walked in, and we talked about that, how if you're playing a game, there's a certain way that chance is part of it. You roll the dice. Oh, man, I didn't get the doubles I needed. Oh, well, what shall I do? You don't get mad. You don't get upset. You adjust to that.
Yep.
There are some things in game playing that you can control and some things that you cannot. Not only is that really great for kids to learn, but older adults need to learn that too. I love that idea. It's like playing by rules. We establish rules. Let me talk about rules for a minute and go back to that time when the four of us were sitting in our living room and we were playing that game that was sort of like charades. And all of a sudden we were like, no, that's not what the rule was. And then somebody said, yes, it was. We were supposed to do that. And then somebody said, no, I remember that it was this. And then somebody said, well, we can just make up our own rules. But we didn't say, we don't need any rules, let's just play. We said we can make up our own rules.
right.
And so when you have rules, no matter what they are or how you change them, it makes the playing field the same for everyone.
Exactly.
And let me just add this before we go back and talk about Mah Jongg. Isn't that why some of us get so upset when people who we expect to play by the rules don't? And I don't think I'm really just talking about playing Scrabble here.
No.
So anyway,
Yeah.
Mah Jongg.
Oh, Mah Jongg. Mah Jongg is a really interesting game. It has had its ups and downs in popularity. Right now, it is absolutely skyrocketing in
Why?
popularity. Um, Mostly what I hear, because as you know, I bring disparate groups of 8 people at a time together to play Mahjong, and I always ask them a little questionnaire: why here? Why now? And
Right,
the why here is I want to meet some new people,
right.
and I want to keep my brain stimulated. The why now is often I'm newly retired and I
Oh,
have more
yes, of
time.
course. We have time to learn all these nice new things.
Exactly. And I mean, it's been in popular culture. Julia Roberts has done podcasts about her love of the game, Sarah Jessica Parker,
And now us.
and now us. And I am, what is this? This is almost January. I'm booked out through May.
Oh, come on,
I know,
popular
I
girl.
know. But people, the real reason I don't think, I think the reason this happened post-pandemic is because people never want to feel that isolated again, and that they are going out of their way to participate in activities that keeps them engaged and mentally alert. We
But why?
know, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
We know that playing games triggers the release of endorphins and
Oh,
promotes
yeah.
relaxation, and it helps with stress. And
Right.
I've gone into games. I've gone into a mahjong game on a Tuesday night where I've had a terrible day, and it's been nothing but stress and correcting other people's mistakes. I walk in, it's like a breath of fresh air has come over me because I'm with new people that are all, interested in doing the same thing. Don't see them all the time, see them once a week, so we catch up with each other.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
just a
yeah.
very relaxing way to spend a couple of hours.
Okay. But if somebody wants to learn something new,
Mm.
why would they choose something with all of those confusing looking tiles? Tell me about those. Give us a little background on Mahjong.
Okay, Mahjong is an old game played first by Chinese men in opium dens. Um,
How could
uh,
they? Well, I guess they really would get into it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and eventually, um, American businessmen who had spent time in China learned to play the game and brought it back to the States. The problem was that there were no manufacturers of the game in States, and the original Chinese games were made of things like, ivory and
Oh,
bone,
yeah.
all things that are
Right.
taboo in the States. So the gentleman that brought it over here in the late 1800s, early 1900s, found himself two companies who were willing to manufacture it. One was Parker Brothers,
Oh, no kidding.
and the other one was, of all kinds of places, Abercrombie and Fitch. Their first, yeah,
Oh,
not clothing, but a
no.
game. And gradually, for whatever reason, the game sort of began to filter down through other Americans. And there are now many, many versions of Mahjong. There is Chinese Mahjong, there is Japanese Mahjong. People in the Philippines play a slightly different version of the Asian Mahjongs. And then there is American Mahjong.
Oh, does it have commercial breaks? Oh, no, just kidding. I was thinking, okay, we have to play for 5 minutes and then we will have a commercial break. No, sorry.
American Mahjong took hold in cities first, New
Why?
York, Manhattan being the primary one. Women would put their kids to bed and they would get together from other people in their apartment buildings or their neighborhoods and they would play. And then as the cities began to dissolve into the suburbs,
Mm-hmm.
um, some of the people that were used to playing and seeing their table mates daily would kind of yearn for that connection that they didn't have in the suburbs. And so they began to arrange mahjong games once a week in at other people's homes. They would share. There would,
Oh,
be
nice.
tea and
Nice.
cookies and mahjong and whatever. And over the past 4 years, there has been such a proliferation of people wanting to learn, A, because they want to keep nimble, B, because they have more time, and many of them because they remember their grandmothers and their mothers playing. That,
Really?
yeah, that is a
Yeah.
big piece of it.
Mine didn't.
Like I
Mine
said, in
didn't.
my house, every Tuesday was Mahjong day and night. Um, and then I forgot about it. I was busy playing games like, you know, Monopoly, and word games. I love
Right, right.
things like that.
Scrabble and things
Yeah,
like
and
that.
then
Yeah.
one afternoon in about, I don't know, 12 years ago, I happened to be at my mom's house as her Mahjong group was meeting, and I uh, sat with them and watched. And not only was the sound of the tiles an immediate memory for me, it just brought me back to when I was 7 years old. But I watched
Oh,
those women who were in their 80s and early 90s, and they were sharp and they were competitive, and some of them couldn't hear each other, but that was
oh.
okay. It didn't matter. And they were just having a wonderful, wonderful time. And I told my mother I wanted to learn how to play, and she said, "Great, you have a big birthday coming up. I will buy you a Mahjong set for your birthday. It's up to you to find out how to learn how to play the game." So she did. I got the set, and I found through a meetup group, I found an instructor, loved it, loved it, loved it. And it brought back so many happy memories for me, learning to play the game. So then I learned to play it, but had no one to play with.
Oh boy.
So I started my own meetup group, and that was 12 years ago, and we play every Tuesday night.
Okay, wait a minute. I've known you forever, and I never knew you did that every Tuesday
Oh,
night.
yeah. Every Tuesday night. Yep,
Okay.
we play. We managed to play through the pandemic using an online game, which
It's not the same. I tried that
was
once.
not the same, but it did have audio on it, so we were still able to talk to each other and play together around an online table, and it kept us all together during the pandemic. And the group grew from 6 people. We now have 20 people. Not all come at the same time. Some go to Florida, some
Yeah, yeah.
whatever. But we've been through life cycle events, births, deaths, weddings, grandchildren together. And it has become a true friends group with people that I never would have met otherwise.
Wow, isn't
And
that like a little miracle? That's
it is.
wonderful.
I value that connection every year when I give thanks for the people in my life that have, added so much to it. That they're a piece of it. And we just got our first man this year. Up until now,
It's
we've
like
been women, but we have
our
our
first
first man.
man. Yeah. Well, I hope that
And
works out.
recently, I inherited both my mother's set and my grandmother's mahjong set.
I bet you love those.
And I do. And I always feel like I play better when I'm playing with either one of those
Oh, I
sets.
bet it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Can you just take a minute and just explain for people who may not know what mahjong you
Sure.
play with tiles, and there are
Mahjong
symbols
is a
on
game
tiles.
very, the game I would compare it most to is Rummy Cube. It's a game that's played with tiles. It's played in suits. It has jokers in it like Rummy Cube has. And the goal is to make a specified hand of your choosing using various combinations of the tiles.
But the tiles are sort of like pictographs in a way. They have little
Yes.
designs on them.
Yes,
Like,
there are three main suits: dots, bams, and cracks.
oh my God, who could remember all of this?
It's thought that the name itself, Mahjong, comes from the word sparrow in Chinese, because the sound of the tiles on the table sounds like a sparrow clicking on
Oh,
the tree.
oh, I like that.
Thought you'd like
Yeah,
that.
I like that. So it sounds
And
complicated.
you play four people at a time at a table, and you can have obviously as many tables as you like, and each round takes about 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes.
Is it hard to learn what all
And
those different tiles mean?
it's not hard. I teach, the classes I teach are 4 weeks long, 2 hours at a time. And by the second class, everybody knows what the tiles are and what matches what and what goes with what. And nobody's going to be a championship player after 4 weeks, but
But nobody really needs that, do they?
exactly.
I mean, you're doing it for a lot of other reasons. It
Right.
was really funny. We were talking about with a student who walked in a little earlier and sat in and listened to what you and I were talking about. And she mentioned that she had worked in a nursing home. And she said what she liked about what you and I were talking about was picturing the older adults that you mentioned playing Mah Jongg in their 80s and their 90s. And she said that when she was working, it was a dementia unit, and they would play bingo. And bingo was a game that nearly I think that's what she said, or that most of the folks in the dementia unit could play, even at that point in their life. That just made me feel so good about the importance. We know that game playing is good, but for people who may not be able to do a lot of other things because of some cognitive difficulties, something that from their past was bingo, and they were still able to play it. And I asked her, I said, did you see a change in them? And she said, oh, yeah. I said, did you see them smile? She said, oh, yeah, they were all smiling. Yeah. Isn't that right, Bree? She's still sitting here. Yep, she's nodding her head. I love that part.
When my mom was descending into her cognitive decline, Mahjong was the last thing that went.
You're kidding.
She played Mahjong reasonably well, longer than she was able to do anything else. Yep.
Well, now there's a reason to start to play Mahjong.
Yep.
Thanks so much. Well, as we wind down, I wanted to know if there were other words that you'd like to share with listeners, not just about the game itself, but not just about how you feel about it or how they can connect with other people who might want to play Mahjong. We could do that also. But why you think it's so important for people to think about doing something now for their futures, doing something now that will help their brain stay active and help them, I'm kind of tired of the word isolation, but help them stay connected to people as the years go by.
Families move away. Connections end for whatever reasons. Wouldn't it be wonderful if every older person had a community outside of their family that they could rely on and talk to and play a game with and just know that they were there? Because for whatever reason, the people that they used to rely on aren't available anymore. Wouldn't that be great?
That would be great.
And this is a way to start to do that. And I think I'm a little teary-eyed here.
I am
but
too.
I think that's one of the best reasons, and it doesn't have to be Mahjong. It can be canasta, it can be bingo, it can be Scrabble. It doesn't matter. It can be caveman.
Caveman. Well, you've brought up a really good point, and I feel a little teary-eyed too because I've known you for a long time. We've played a lot of games together, and I feel pretty confident that our little connection is going to last as long as it possibly can. But we're going to have to really sharpen up our brain skills a little more often than we do now. So can you come on over after we're done with this session and we can talk like a cave person?
That would be fun.
Okay, so let's do that. You brought up a really good word. That would be fun. And as we wind down, I really wanted to mention, we play games for all of those things because it's good for our brains, because it helps us make social connections. But let's just quote John Peresky, my husband, and remember that one of the really important reasons for playing games is because it's fun. Right, Jill?
It is so much fun.
Let's go and play some games.
Sounds good.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
This concludes today's podcast. We're always looking for new ideas, so feel free to reach out to Judy Raper, Associate Dean of Community Engagement at Greenfield Community College, at 413-775-1819 if you have an idea you'd love to share. Special thanks to the creators of Backyard Oasis, Denise Schwartz, Chad Fuller, Dennis Lee, and Christine Copeland. Have a great day.